This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about Trouble in Paradise, directed by Ernest Lubitsch from 1932. The synopsis from Letterboxd: thief Gaston Montesquieu and pickpocket Lily are partners in crime and love. Working for the perfume company executive Mariette Colette, the two crooks decide to combine their criminal talents to rob their employer. Under the alias of Monsieur Laval, Gaston uses his position as Mariette's personal secretary to become closer to her. However, he takes things too far when he actually falls in love with Mariette and has to choose between her and Lily.
I was just reacting.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, it's like the first time you ever heard what this movie was about.
Yeah, I didn't watch this fucking thing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't watch any of the movies we talk about anymore.
This was a first-time watch for me. And This was a first-time watch of an Ernst Lubitsch movie.
Yeah, me too. But apparently, people are pretty into this dude, it seems.
People are pretty into this Lubitsch guy. And movies like Grand Budapest Hotel helped, I think, drive up his stock with people. Because when you get name-checked by the King Anderson, people go, oh, I've always been a fan of Lubitsch.
Oh, Lubitsch? Fuck, I've known that guy for years.
Yeah.
Hey, can you remind me what happened the last time we watched a movie that was recommended by Wes Anderson?
Which one was that?
Redbeard, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Redbeard, baby.
That was more of him having a personal conversation with Bill Murray that Bill Murray then outed him in. So I don't know if it's a full-on recommend, but
well,
that's neither here nor there.
Sure.
So in a word, RJ, I would describe Trouble in Paradise as charming. Now, it reminded me of My Man Godfrey, which makes me think of when RJ hated that movie a lot. And so I was like,
Yes.
I wonder.
Why did it remind you of My Man Godfrey?
Because it's like, another like 30s screwball comedy about people and their schemes. Perhaps not the most like traditional likable people. They're just like folk. It's like it felt like this is the type of movie that was being made in the 1930s, and these were the stock characters, and perhaps people in 1932 thought these types of characters were hysterical, and like just the way that like these type of characters would be done now would be completely different. It would probably perhaps star Ryan Gosling and maybe Emma Stone.
What type of characters?
Like con artists, grifters. Like you would just have completely different people. You wouldn't necessarily be getting here Herbert Marshall, I don't think Herbert Marshall. Who's the equivalent of Herbert Marshall in 2019? Colin Firth.
Yeah, him or like Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, I scratched that second one there, but that type of fellow, they don't make these guys like they used to, and at least they don't get leading role types.
What are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that we should go back to the way things used to be, Jarrett?
In 1932.
Yeah.
In every which way, making jokes about Adolf.
Ooh, Adolf. Yeah, but it's a PHE. It's not with an F. So it's better.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, RJ. So this movie opens up, and it's kind of like a rickshaw, kind of manic pace of things where like all these people are talking Italian because we're in Venice. And you're like, uh-oh, do I have subtitles on this? And sure enough, within a couple seconds, you're like, okay, that's the comedy because the Italian language is hilarious inherently.
Yep.
Which again is always like my favorite things in all of the Criterion Collection is Italia.
Bob Visetti.
Yeah. So the whole movie starts off with the meeting of Gaston and Lily, who are both trying to rip one another off. And it kind of starts off as like a straight up like, oh man, is this what this movie's going to be? And then it kind of turns and you're like, oh, wait a minute. They're both trying to rip each other off. Cool. And then they're like, wow, you ripped me off real good. Or did I? And they do that whole shtick. And it's like, okay. So now they're thieves. That's kind of cool. I'm on to this. And then it kind of jumps ahead. There's like this kind of subplot developed with a man who, a doctor comes and knocks at the door saying, hey, I'm here to take your tonsils. He's like, what? can I take a look at your tonsils? Okay. He opened his mouth, and then he was unconscious and doesn't remember anything after that. And you're left to go, what happened?
You have to go tonsils.
Yeah, tonsils.
Mm-hmm.
So the main bulk of the story follows Gaston and Lily's long con of Marriott Collette, played by probably the most, I'd say, charismatic player in this whole movie, Kay Francis.
Yeah.
The perfume heiress, I guess you'd call her. And it's just her. She seems like a genuinely, like, really sweet, wonderful human being that's kind of playing along with this. And you basically get to watch for the next hour and 20 minutes this movie goes, innuendos and comments in that 1932 way. So this is one of those pre-code movies, RJ, that we've encountered. Where you got to like kind of be careful and how saucy you could say things. And this movie, like, it's pretty typical, I guess, as far as like what I would expect of the cleverness of innuendo you would get for a 1932 movie.
I mean, I didn't really notice anything. It wasn't like in Alien Covenant when they're talking about finger blasting holes. Like,
yeah,
I didn't notice any of that in this thing.
Playing man flutes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not like it's not no 2018 science fiction movie directed by Ridley Scott in its innuendo, but
sure.
But there's like a playfulness to it about spanking and whatnot. If I was your secretary, I'd spank you. You're hired. Because that means that she's a tease, and the verbal sparring plays out like foreplay. RJ,
I don't like the way you say words sometimes. Like, I know I've mentioned this before, and I know you say you do it intentionally, but like, I feel like you got some things going on over there, man.
I got a lot going on over here.
Yeah, and I'm not like totally on board with it, but there's nothing I can do about it either. So
yeah, that's fine.
So
yeah, this movie's got a screwballiness to it. Just characters kind of zipping, zagging, saying their lines. People find out about things after the fact, and then they yell out things like tonsils. Right when it's like probably too late for them to say it, and then people have to clear out, and you're like, oh, how's it all going to end? Oh, does he really love her? Who does he really care about? Is this more of the work? Is this more of it? And yeah, it kind of is. And then it's like, ha ha ha, low stakes amusement. So RJ, I've got to ask you, did you feel the Lubitsch touch while watching this?
Is that anything like the Duncan touch? The Jarrett touch?
It's very different, RJ.
I'll call the cops.
Very different.
No, I never felt like I wasn't safe while watching this movie. So
like, yeah, the Lubitsch touch apparently was some like presser like line about like when Ernest Lubitsch makes a movie, you can tell it's him because he has a certain a grace to the way he makes movies. His movies feel like none other. Well, I don't know. We could talk about what elements make that. Like, how did this movie feel, RJ? What did you think of this movie?
Are you actually throwing it to me?
Yeah.
So you think this was like my Man Godfrey, hey?
Well, it crossed my mind.
And so what do you think my opinion is?
I don't care.
So why are we even doing this?
Exactly. No, it's okay. Look, it could go either way because I know were not a fan of My Man Godfrey, but I also know you were a fan of the Lady Eve, which is also a screwball comedy.
That's true. So part of the reason I wasn't a big fan of My Man Godfrey, it's because I didn't give a shit about those spoiled ass bratty people because I was like I don't care about these people. This movie doesn't have any of that. I do think this movie has elements that fit in the same, where it's like this very quippy, like sardonic style of talking.
Okay, Michael Moorcock.
Sardonic. I thought this movie was fine. I am mostly ambivalent to it. Nice. Ambivalent. There were a few things I liked. There were a lot of things I just didn't care about, and I was like, I don't care. I said that out loud by myself watching this movie yesterday. I was like, I don't care. I don't care what they're doing in this thing. So there's like, I don't know. There were a few things that I can see why they were comedic at the time. He does have a certain, I don't even know if it's him or it's the editors, but like the way it kind of plays out, like I guess the one that sticks out is like the fast scenes where it's like saying other people's names. It's like, yes, Miss Colette. It's like, no, Miss Colette. Yes, Miss Colette. No, Miss Colette. And it's like going by really fast with all these people. And you're like, okay, I get that. But then in the first opening scene, there's like, yes, Baron. Okay, Baron. Yes, Baron. Oh, yes, of course, Baron. And I was like, holy fuck. I was like, don't say Baron anymore. And like, I know that's the joke. That's like the entire joke is that this like waiter's like, oh, yes, Baron. And I was like, I don't care for this. I don't care for this certain brand of humor, whatever this thing is. So there's things like that. There's a few other things that I think are like too on the nose for me, like the Trotsky guy.
Oh.
Like and like the attention to the purse in general, that is where it's like all this hullabaloo about this like super expensive handbag, and you're like, all right. And then there's the guy who's like comes in, it's like, this guy's got information about the purse. He's like, oh yeah, what is it? And he goes, I can't believe that you would spend so much money on the purse when there's like really important things to have happen here. And it's like, oh boy, here we go again. It's like, there's people and they don't like what we're doing. So there's stuff like that I'm just, I don't know. I was watching it and I was like, I don't care about any of this shit. That said, like there were a few things that I did actually think was funny. Like I actually liked near the opening, like 20 minutes in or so, where she's at the theater with one of the suitors, and they're just kind of like talking back and forth to each other. And she's like, you're the smart one. He's like, ooh, thank you. And she's like, well, that's why you're being such a piece of shit. It's like, because you're smarter than him. And he's like, oh. And it's like kind of like her shitting on him. And then he's like, but I love you. And she's like, yeah, but you suck. I don't know. It was a lot more. It was a lot more eloquent than that, Jarrett. My point is, I liked that scene because I was like, oh, this is like that kind of like screwball, quick, charming dialogue that I think people seem to like quite a bit. So I like that, and there's elements of the story itself that I think are okay. I like the ending for the most part. I was like, okay, I didn't really think it would go that way. Whatever. I thought it was gonna do the predictable things, so that's fine.
What's interesting? Well, so the interesting thing, as far as like pre-code stuff goes, is pre-code movies, crime is not supposed to pay, and in this movie, they get away with it completely.
Oh yeah,
they're like they cash out. They're fine. It's like, that's really weird. Like, I mean,
what I meant,
but I mean too is like, we take that for granted because like we've watched movies where like the lovable scamps, they get away with it, and you're like, oh cool, that's nice, like a real Baby Driver, you know. But but in like in 1932, it's like, oh yeah, they could do that, but come 1935, no, they have to go to jail and atone for their crimes. Like that is like that's like Hollywood scripture. So yeah.
I was more thinking it was going to be like, oh, they are in love and they will get married, and then his like previous thief wife, she'll be cool with it. She'll have found someone else too. So I thought it was going to go that way, and then when it didn't, I was like, oh, that's nice. I was like, it wasn't exactly what I thought, but I don't know. I think there's certain elements where, for it coming out when it did, I was like, oh, maybe this is some of the front line of this kind of things, like the way he puts stuff together and the dialogue and even the story beats, where it's like the She Is All That, where it's like, I took a bet to make you beautiful, but I didn't bet on falling in love with you, and like, you know what I mean, Jarrett?
I know exactly what you mean, and I've waited for you to say those words for so long.
Well, not the quote of the movie. You see? Oh. Like this movie, I think it's fine because it's so old. Like when movies do it now, you're like, oh, that's boring. You know what I mean, Jarrett? You don't watch as many rom-coms as I do.
Hat.
I guess.
Yeah, I definitely do not. At all.
Do you guys know Jarrett has this club of friends that get together and go through the movies that I've watched?
Like Sorority Boys.
I remember Sorority Boys. They dress up like girls to join the sorority because they don't have a place to live, Jarrett.
I see.
Stars Lex Luthor from Smallville, Michael Rosenbaum, I believe. They joined the sorority because they didn't have a place to live. Okay. But they never imagined that they'd fall in love with the sorority sisters that they joined. Do you see what I mean?
Does it have that Lubitsch touch?
Well, I mean, we all kind of have the Lubitsch touch, if you think about it.
I won't.
I mean, but if you think about it, we all are kind of Lubitsch touched. So anyways, my main point here is I thought this movie was fine. I really don't give a shit. And is that what you do when you review movies on a podcast that 5 people listen to? Probably not. However, I don't care. I thought it was fine. Did you like it at all, or do you have any opinion on this thing?
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier, I found it a charming movie.
Fine.
I kind of went in expecting to like really love it. Like I had some like expectations that I was like, yeah, this is going to be the real deal. And then it was kind of like, oh, it doesn't really do anything that I'm particularly excited about when I'm watching like a screwball comedy, I guess.
Yeah.
I think My Man Godfrey's better. Lady Eve, I think, is like a kind of a masterpiece of this stuff.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
But at the same time, I feel like maybe I will have a different opinion when I watch more Lubitsch movies, maybe. And then I'll go back and have more of like a feel for this. I think going into this kind of cold, because I've never seen one, other than I know what 30s comedies are kind of like. Watching this, I just kind of was like, okay, this was like not bad. It went blew by. Like compared to like those Rene Claire movies, holy shit! Like those movies are just like, I think honestly kind of terrible. This like is completely fine.
Do you think this has the Lubitsch touch?
I think it might. Just have it.
Yeah, it did go by pretty fast.
Yeah, but like I mentioned before, like I think Kay Francis is a real champion in this movie. Like all the scenes with her, I found her performance so different than everyone else in the movie. Whereas like they're all kind of like playing the shtick, this kind of like stylization. She seemed to be like into that, but like her like full body kind of like reactions to stuff were like really well done. Like they're like her like sinking back into the chair and reacting, and her face, her eyes. Everything she does is like well ahead of like everyone else. Like I think for me, like I'm like, wow, like I'd watch more movies with her in it just because she's in them. And maybe that makes me an old grandpa, but
you're pretty old hat.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, I've seen some new hats and I've seen some old hats. You're one of those piece of shit hats.
Oh, okay, that's pretty old.
It's a pretty old hat. Yeah, you're like a fez.
Oh.
Like it's like no one really knows what the point is. It's like, what does that hat do? Does it keep the sun out?
Can't even wear it anymore.
Does it keep your head warm? Like, what does it do? I've thought about that. You a lot.
I bet you have.
What does he do as a hat for me?
Interesting. One thing of note here I just noticed is that like every single person that I follow who's watched this movie, all men, that's it. That is like, oh yeah.
How many women do you follow on Letterboxd?
I don't know what the percentage is, but like the women I do follow, they're like, some of them like love 30 stuff, and none of them have watched this movie.
Well, I only follow women on Letterboxd, Jarrett.
Oh.
And not a lot of them have seen it either, which is bizarre. Maybe they don't like the Lubitsch touch.
No.
It's kind of like the male gaze, but it's actually this weird old dude touching you.
Let's take a look here. Ooh, there's a movie of Kay Francis called The Feminine Touch.
Is that like the Lubitsch touch?
It's got a hell of a poster, though. Hell of a poster.
Hell of a good looking poster.
Wow, she's got 78 credits. I've seen two. I've seen her two most popular films, The Coconuts with the Marx Brothers. I don't remember her in that at all. She doesn't even have top billing.
Don't even know what she is.
She is in One Way Passage. Wow.
What is it? Is that like an innuendo?
That came out the same year. Directed
Jared,
by
that's where you...
Tay Garnett. The tagline or the synopsis: a terminally ill woman and a debonair murderer facing execution meet and fall in love on a trans-Pacific crossing, each without knowing the other's secret.
Okay, so this is where you made a mistake. When you said, what was the name of that movie?
One Way Passage.
One Way Passage. And I said, is that a innuendo? You should have said, in your endo.
See, because I leave that to you.
Do you see? Because it's the... Do you see?
And also the same year,
do you see?
With William Jewel Robbery with William Powell, K. Francis. A gentleman thief charms a Viennese baron's wife and also conducts a daring daylight robbery of a jeweler's.
Yeah, but does she have any movies like Ace Ventura?
Maybe Wonder Bar?
What's Wonder Bar about?
Chocolate? Bar from 1934, directed by Lloyd Bacon.
That's not a real person, is it?
It is. This film's tagline: Warner Brothers, Wonder Show of the Century. Harry and Inez are a dance team at the Wonder Bar. Inez loves Harry, but he is in love with Leanne, the wife of a wealthy businessman. Al Wonder and the conductor-singer Tommy are in love with Inez. When Inez finds out that Harry wants to leave Paris and is going to the USA with Leanne, she kills him.
She kills him, eh?
Yeah.
That's good of him to put it right up front there.
It's got a Busby Berkeley dance number in it. We all love that Busby Berkeley, don't we?
What are we doing? What are we doing here, Jarrett?
Just talking about cinema, RJ.
Making conversation, hey?
Making conversation. Hey, want to find out who hates Trouble in Paradise?
Not really.
Oh, very well then.
I guess that's that, eh?
That's that. He killed it. Killed it dead. Mm-hmm. Well, tough.
Good. All right, whatever. I don't give a shit.
George, half a star. It's shit. I hate art. It sucks. I am one of 3 people to give it half a star. Also, my 1400 film, and I can never change that.
I like how self-aware George is. Hey, speaking of, one of George's favorite movies is Ace Ventura. Pet Detective.
There you go.
That's a good show, Jarrett. Very good show. A lot of their not liked shows are, whoa, half a star to butt crack. No. I was on board with this guy until I saw that.
Man,
I was gonna say this guy's got great taste. All of his 5-star movies are movies I'm on board with. All of his bad movies are movies I don't give a shit about. But butt crack, nah.
CEJ, 1.5 stars.
Butt crack.
I've seen other Lubitsch movies and I liked them, but this one, I didn't laugh. Hell, I barely even noticed any jokes. Well, his movies were often more character-driven things anyway. Well, I didn't give a damn about the characters here.
You know what they did give a damn about?
What?
8th Grade.
Wow.
And Roma. And Lady Bird.
Very modern.
And Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Very contemporary.
Very contemporary. I don't see Call Me By Your Name on their 5-star lists. But they only have a few half-star films. There's some Spike Lee in here. It's weird. There's also Out Cold, which is a certified Creeps hit. A certified hit.
Out Cold.
You know that movie I talked about a while ago?
Yep.
That you were super interested in and you liked and
yep.
You wanted to know more about?
Nope.
Well, if you don't remember, it's a certified hit.
And finally, 1.5 stars. Heretic. There are certain films you are not allowed to dislike. For example, it seems bad form to dislike a Charles Burnett film, so I was happy to discover that I love his When It Rains. But even though I didn't like Killer of Sheep, at least I could understand its appeal. With Trouble in Paradise, I'm completely baffled, especially because I cannot find another living soul who agrees with me. I want to blame Samson Raffleson for the extremely obvious...
Who, that guy?
The author of the screenplay for this film.
I thought some Hungarian dude wrote it.
For the extremely obvious, heavy-handed wit of his script. But I've never seen a Lubitsch comedy that doesn't seem obvious and slow. It's as if his characters have one idea to express at a time. We watch that idea of sophistication or wit play out in exactly the way we expect it to play out. And there is no flash of the human, of anarchy, of freedom. Everybody seems like a robot. I find more ideas and speed in the glacial pacing of a Laurel and Hardy comedy than in a Lubitsch comedy. The satire in Ninotchka is as heavy and dundering as the satire in To Be or Not to Be. Everything in his movies is too broad and overstated because everything is on the nose and to the point. It's as if he is too controlling a director, so all his actors are like prisoners. Trouble in Paradise is ostensibly a trifle, a confection, a movie about nothing where nothing is taken too seriously except pleasure. And perhaps making such a trifle is harder than it seems. Perhaps it requires actual sophistication rather than its pretense. If you want to see all the many ways in which Trouble in Paradise fails, just read Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Ernest.
Ugh, shut up.
As he flicks his hair back.
Okay, so Heretic has weird taste.
He's a heretic, or she.
Yeah, whoever they are, they have weird taste. They just gave Monterey Pop Festival 5 stars.
Maybe they're a listener.
They could be. There's a lot of lots of Criterions. Lots of these like 30 types, like 30s types movies. It's 5-star fair share. Did you see what I meant by that?
Nope.
They just gave the Suspiria remake 5 stars.
There you go.
It's great 5 stars, but let's check out these 1-star reviews, Jarrett. Wild Strawberries, Jules and Jim, Bovita, Hausu, Bob La Flamble, which we just partaked in. Wait, there was one other one I was going to say. Swing Time, 1 star. Mother, 1 star. That's kind of weird. Creed, 1 star. Also weird. And then there's a few half stars in here, like really weird. Saving Private Ryan, Black Hawk Down, Leaving Las Vegas, The Thing, 0.5 star. Why? Like, what do you... Super Cop with Jackie Chan, 0.5 star? That's weird. What's wrong with Super Cop?
It's not...
Jarrett?
Where's Police Story 3? That's what I want to know.
It's the same thing. It's Super Cop.
I know. but Police Story 3 is the real version. Not Weinstein.
So are you one of these people who's against Super Cop?
I haven't watched it.
It's part of the collection.
Not yet.
Isn't Police Story part of the collection?
Nope. Just part 1 and 2.
Not Super Cop?
Not Super Cop.
What's wrong with Super Cop?
Absolutely nothing.
Oh.
Anyways.
Okay.
Well, Heretic. Thanks for playing. Yeah, I don't know. I want to watch more Lubitsch movies at some point. We will be, because they're in that collection.
Are they?
I'd like to watch more Kay Francis movies. I thought this movie, again, I liked it. Fine. But, I don't know. It's a little bit stodgier than I expected it was going to be.
Was it?
Yeah.
Some people think you're pretty stodgy.
Oh, that's fine. I am.
Are you?
Or you could call it sophisticated and shit.
Oh. You could. I'm not going to, but like... remember when that guy gave 5 stars to Ace Ventura? That was cool.
After the break, RJ and I get away with the money. And now we're going to spend a marvelous time in Paris.
Consoles.